So it's time for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques here at the CCA workbench. And you know what? Dave's out this week. Couldn't think of a better guy to bring in to talk about groupers than my good friend Randy Tao. Now, Randy, in the Florida Keys, you guys certainly are a region that has lots of groupers, both inshore and offshore, Atlantic side and Gulf side. So how do you like to catch them?
Very true. Well, right in the mouth. But we do have them in a lot of places. They love structure, bridges. I mean, you catch them at the bridge when you're tarpon fishing. You know, they're in a lot of places. They like to be around cover. One thing we want to talk about when you're grouper fishing, usually you want a rod that's going to do the job, because there's nothing worse than hooking a nice fish and he gets you in the bottom, gets you in the wreck, gets you around the piling. So if you're going to target a grouper, gear up for it.
Yeah.
So here's a pretty standard rig right here.
This is the Penn Alley.
Right.
It's a short stand-up style of rod.
So this rod, you probably fish 40 or 50 pound line on it.
Right.
And the main reason is you want to be able to put some drag on the reel. 20 pounds of drag is a lot of drag. You can't really do it with 20 pound line. That's why 40 or 50 comes in handy to really put the brakes on these things. So the one thing I'm going to show you, a basic rig to go grouper fishing. There's the traditional knocker rig, where you'd have a short leader, usually about 6 feet, and you've got your swivel, and the swivel would slide down, and it would stop there, and you'd throw it out, it'd go down to the bottom.
Right.
So that's kind of the traditional way. If you're not in deep water, like if you're shallow, it works pretty well because it doesn't get tangled.
Right.
If you're in a little bit deeper water, or you're fishing some of the wrecks and you're going to be moving kind of on a drift, I put this rig together where you've got 2 snap swivels.
All right, so let's take our time, make sure everybody at home can see this. So you have 2 snap swivels. Snap swivel here is a good diamond swivel, I can tell.
And like 150 pound mono here, something pretty heavy so that you can use it over and over and it doesn't break. And then I have my lead where I can interchange it. Depending on the condition, I can go to a 10 ounce, an 8 ounce, a 12 ounce. So I can change that lead really quick, because if I have this now.
So where do you hook it?
On my line.
An additional diamond swivel here.
Right.
And this slides up and down the line.
Correct. So now I've got 2 swivels that are back to back, not to be confused with a 3-way.
Right.
So my leader's down here, and this one will slide down and carry the bait down to the bottom.
Correct.
And also, when this sits on the bottom, if I want to free line my bait out away from my lead, or let the fish eat it, I can do that.
So this is how it looks. So leave that on the bottom. Pick up the rod there. Just leave that laying on the desk. And so now what would end up happening is we actually have this, and we can adjust our length by either reeling it up to the stop or by letting it go deeper.
Exactly.
Letting our bait swim around. Love it.
So when you're already rigged up, the last thing you want to do is retie another lead on or get delayed in getting this bait in the water. So just unclip on the snap, and a lot of these leads come with the swivels on them like this. So it's an easy change to go from heavier to lighter,
so you could
depending
now
on
go
the
to
condition.
a 12 ounce or 14 or
and you can have all these pre-rigged in your box. All you need is this piece right here. This is the magic with the 2 swivels on it that makes life easy when you want to change your leads.
Now, you and I have been doing Sportsman's Adventures for 27 years, and you've never showed this to me. Your little secret.
No, you've seen it.
It's out.
You just didn't
I didn't know what I
recognize it.
saw.
Exactly. Now I'm telling you.
Oh. That's how we roll now.
Well, evidently, if you didn't know after 27 years,
well,
that's what we did.
It's a little thick up here sometimes, you know.
Loosen that hat up. We did a mutton show, and we had this rig on there when we were catching all the
So
mutton.
let's take a second while we're doing this. Let's talk a little bit about the hooks that you like. What size do you typically make your rigs out of?
I use a lot of those Eagle Claw Trocar hooks. This is a 7.0 right here, and I use the 4.0. This other one you just happen to have. I love the heavier wire, and if you're going to grouper fish, you can't have a thin wire hook. You can't have a little hook. You got to have something that's not going to straighten out.
Right.
So these are really strong, triple strength, and they're very sharp, and that's my go-to hook right there for tarpon, for groupers, snappers.
So I want to show you something. You see where it says on this label here, See where it says there real close, if you can zoom in there, Doug, you see it says TK4, Randy?
Yeah.
The TK stands for quadruple strength. If it was a TK3, then that would be 3 times the normal strength. So if you guys go to, your local tackle store and you're looking at the Trocars, understand that the Trocar is the top of the line hook that Eagle Claw makes, but there's a TK2, TK3, TK4.
But also don't get confused with looking at this hook going, I'm going to use that for sail fishing and kite fishing.
Right.
It's way too heavy a wire to use
Right.
for live bait fishing for that application. Grouper fishing, tarpon fishing, there's no better hook than that right there. That's all I use.
Yeah, you would want to use the laser sharp in the Eagle Claws because that's
Correct.
a smaller
Thinner
wire and it's going to go into the sailfish. You don't put a lot of drag on the sailfish anyway.
Exactly. So you don't have to worry about it breaking because you want it to stick and hook. And that's what those hooks do so well with their needle point.
So let me ask you, so this is the Penn Fathom 60. It's a 2-speed reel. Do you like 2-speed for the grouper fishing so that when they really close, I do like a 2-speed reel and put it in low gear so that we can put it in the power winch.
You know what, I go the other way because if I'm doing battle with something like that and I turn that handle, I want as much line coming my way as I can. So I tend to believe the other way where every couple of cranks, I'm getting him further away from his house.
Right.
And, those extra feet make a big difference on a big grouper if he can get you in the bottom.
Well, I agree. So you hook that grouper. This is kind of how I envision the grouper. So you hook him and you're pulling him up and he looks over his shoulder. If he can see his hole, that's when you get the turn. Or if you allow him to see his hole, then he can get to it. Yeah. That's when we lose. But if you keep him coming, then he can never get a chance to look back.
You can't look back.
All right.
Never look back.
Don't look back,
Never
Brie.
look back. Well, guys, the secret's out. A secret that
baby coming. Don't look back.
Don't look back. I can't look back now. I just got to go straight ahead.